Okay, good afternoon. My name is Lubin. Before I carry on to the next topic, I just wanted to add that for our YIEDL competition, the rewards are given in YIEDL tokens, which Davide mentioned earlier, are not listed yet. But we do have a 500 USDC reward every week for the top predictors. So this is 500 USDC rewards on top of the YIEDL tokens that are there to be earned every week. So if you haven't joined yet, please join and keep our current data scientists on their toes. All right, so my name is Lubin. Once again, Davide and Roberto walked us through the core of what we do at YIEDL. I'm here today to talk about something that started off as a byproduct of what we were trying to build, but has grown and evolved to be one of our core offerings. And that is our datasets. We started running the YIEDL competition in November 2021, and we wanted to release a dataset to help with participants' predictions so that they can focus on their models. So we built a pipeline to collect data, process, and publish a dataset for each round of the competition. The raw data metrics we have can generally be categorized into price, sentiment, and on-chain data. Price would be your open, high, low, close. We also include volume and marketplace and market cap. Sentiment includes things like number of positive comments in a certain time period on a social media platform. On-chain would have things like number of transactions in a day on this certain blockchain. The YIEDL competition has weekly rounds, so the data set is also released weekly. Here is a general overview of our pipeline. We begin firstly with the raw data collection. The assets in the data set are identified by symbol. So when we are able to add new symbols and there are duplicates, we need to resolve these duplicate symbols. We keep the top ones by market cap. Data for new symbols are appended. So if a project goes to 0, we retain the existing data for that symbol in the data set. Even though we don't add any more, there's no longer any more new data for that symbol each day, we keep the historical data in there. For new symbols, we also append their historical data. So what this means is that we might be able to start including a symbol on, for example, the 1st of November. But maybe this project began a month ago. So what we do on the 1st of November is we include the data for that symbol since the 1st of October. So what this means is that if you downloaded the data set on the 15th of October, you wouldn't see this new symbol. But if you downloaded it on the 1st of November, you would see this new symbol from the 1st of October to the 31st of October. We perform this update every time we do what we call a refresh. For the YIEDL datasets, this refresh is done every release. So it is done weekly. For the full datasets that are to be used with the Numerai competition, the refresh is done every month. And I'll touch on this in more detail in a later section. The next step is we aggregate the data daily. Different metrics may have different granularity, so we standardize and aggregate them daily. And then for the weekly data sets, we add in an additional step to aggregate them weekly. We then process the features from the raw metrics such that the end values are either in the range 0 to 1 for the YIEDL competition or integers 0 to 100 for the full daily data sets. We then rename the columns. We rename the columns, we do some obfuscation so that what you get in the data set are numbered feature columns and not the raw metric descriptions. Though for the full Numerai daily data set, we do expose the metric category. So the metric category, the three categories, price, sentiment, and on-chain. And that's it. Then we publish the data set. We released 2 data sets for our YIEDL competition. When we first began, we only released a weekly aggregated data set. Later on, from feedback, there was some utility for a daily aggregated one. So now we release both of them on a weekly basis. The approach we take with these data sets is to make it as straightforward as possible for participants to apply and use these data sets. So what we do is we filter out the rows that still have NaN cells after all our processing. So in these two data sets, there are no NaNs. We try to make it as straightforward as possible to use. These are the current numbers for our YIEDL datasets. This is based on the daily dataset up to the end of October. 2,335 unique symbols, roughly 1.5 million rows across 6.5 years, with 1,140 features. These are the number of unique symbols added and removed by year. This is based on the daily YIEDL dataset. One thing to note in the charts for this presentation, we include the year 2024 at the end, though 2024 hasn't ended yet. So this is up to the end of October. We do expect the eventual number for 2024 to be a little higher than what we have at the end of this chart. On the left, these are the rows, the number of rows we have by year. And on the right, these are the dates covered for some major cryptos. The 10 cryptos here are just taken from some index. This one is taken from the Nasdaq Crypto Index. Those assets that have a gap at the start, Solana, Link, AVAX, Uni, Matic, it is because the project, the tokens at that time, they were not listed or traded yet. So their start date in our data set actually corresponds to the start date of when their token became tradable. In other words, for these major cryptos, we have data available since inception of the tradable asset. Now on to the full data sets that are to be used with the Numerai crypto competition. The aggregation is daily. We don't have target columns for these data sets. We leave this up to the user's discretion, how they would like to train using this data set. The data set is released in two portions. There is a historical data set, which is much larger, just under 8 gigabytes at the moment. Okay, sorry, we have a historical data set which is much larger, just under 8 gigabytes at the moment. This contains data from 2013 until the last day of the last month. And then we have a monthly or latest data set which contains data from the first of the month to the current date. This is, of course, much smaller, in the order of about 1 to 200 megabytes. So, to get the complete data, users will just have to download the historical data set once a month, and then the latest one each day. The daily data sets are released every day, Mondays to Fridays. So there is a break on Saturdays, Sundays. We give the machines a rest. We do what we can to prevent the robot uprising. These are the current numbers for our full data sets for use in Numerai Crypto. 3,292 unique symbols, roughly 3.9 million rows. This is more than twice that of the YIEDL data sets. Again, we don't do the NaN filtering. Across 11.5 years with 3,669 features. And again, the three categories that we expose are price, sentiment, and on-chain. As before, these are the number of unique symbols added and removed by year. Again, we expect the 2024 numbers to be a bit higher by the time the year ends. One thing to note from here, it looks like 2023 killed a lot of crypto projects. By the time we arrive at 2024, we have 727 assets that existed in 2023, but no longer in 2024. But overall, we're still moving upward with crypto. Total symbols added across these 11 years is slightly more than twice the total symbols removed. As before, on the left, these are the number of rows we have by year. This is for the full daily data set to be used with Numerai Crypto. On the right, these are the dates covered for the major cryptos from the Nasdaq Crypto Index. Once again, we see that the start date for each crypto asset corresponds to when the asset became tradable. So we have data since inception for each of these assets. These are the percentage nans by year. For assets like Solana and AVAX, this typically comes from certain metrics that are available in other assets, but not for them. So we see that the NAN percentage remains constant. For the rest, we see that when the assets are added, we typically start with some NANs. Then as we go along, certain metrics, such as the sentiment metrics, start to exist. So people go from not talking about these crypto assets to talking about them. And so these metrics, the metrics become non-zero. And when the metrics are non-zero, then the feature NANs in them, they go towards zero. Because now we have data that exists for these features. All right, this is the page on our website where the data sets can be downloaded. On the left, in the pink box, are the data sets for the YIEDL competition. On the right are the two buttons for the full Numerai daily data for Numerai Crypto. The latest button is for the data set with data since the 1st of the current month. And the historical button has the larger 8GB file with all data up until the end of the last month. The full data sets for Numerai Crypto are also available via permalink so that it is easier to retrieve them programmatically. We recently started releasing the full daily data sets, and on the right are our download numbers since the 1st of the month. These are downloads by unique IPs per day, and we have had a total of 202 downloads in the first 10 days of this month for the latest data set, and 66 for the historical data set. We're constantly looking to improve our data set, and this includes looking at how to enhance our source data coverage as well as our feature processing methods. Another thing we are looking into is the ability to release data sets at a higher intraday frequency. This would require quite a bit of work, potentially a rewrite of our entire existing pipeline, because it will require changes in the way we collect data. It requires changes in the way we process the data, something that we are looking into. As we process this, one issue that has come up is that of duplicate symbols. So right now, just to give you an insight into some of these things we face in creating the data set. Right now, we resolve duplicate symbols by simply picking the best one, the best one by market cap. And then what happens is we discard the rest. But in doing so, again, we are discarding data. And in the spirit of being comprehensive and inclusive, we would like to include this data as well. So we try to look at ways that we can include all of this at the same time. And a corner case for something like that would also be, for example, if we had a crypto that existed and then died off. And then after a period of time, we have another crypto that comes in with the same symbol, and then this crypto thrives. So if we are not able to resolve these duplicates without discarding them, what happens is that this new crypto is it's kind of stuck. We can't really include it. I mean, if we were to include it into the data set, then it would look as if that old symbol got revived. But if we don't, then we've kind of banned this new thriving crypto from ever entering the data set. Just because its symbol was taken by some older dead crypto before that. So just an insight to some of the things we face, and this is one of the things that we're looking at. We're trying to understand how we can resolve and include them as much as possible. Yes.
I have a question regarding, let's say, for example, local mergers, and also about local transitions. For example, Matic.
Yes, to. Yeah.
So I don't know currently do both of these because exist, or how do we handle them currently, and what is the plan, and also like mergers, like Ocean and a lot of these AJs and those coins have merged into a CP. So how is that handled? Because sentiment and all should be trapped in the same token, but I think it gets dispersed if it is like,
Yeah, makes sense. So right now for renaming, just to address it one by one, for renaming, we keep the old one, So if we receive data, I mean, if they've renamed, we receive data, we rename the new name back to whatever it was the initial one. Um, for for token mergers, I think that's something that at the moment we just handle because if they merge into a new ticker, we just treat it as a new symbol at the moment. Yeah, so that's how we are managing it at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. In that case, it historically. Yeah, in that case, if Ocean has no long is delisted, if it has no further data, then it won't appear in the data set anymore. So it would appear historically, as Ocean, and then after the merger, it would just be treated like a new ticker. Yeah. So where was yes? So those are things that we're trying to incorporate. So including resolving these duplicate tickers. And this is it for the data sets. Yes, Alex.
As far as like duplicate tickers, wouldn't it be, or have you guys looked into using just the contract address? Like even if you just were to like abbreviate the contract address itself, like maybe that would.
Yeah. So I think, I think on paper, a straightforward way would actually just to give a hash. I mean, identify each of them separately, whether by contract address, some kind of hash ID. I think a further consideration that we've had with this is just how users want to use this data. So this comes down to, I guess, a few things. There's in terms of how it fits with users, how users are currently using the data set, as well as this links into how the competition, how they're evaluating the submissions. So for example, I mean, if the competition is evaluating them by symbol, and then we release something with just the hash ID, what happens is then users will kind of you have to resolve them yourself, right? I mean, so that's one thing, we could release it like this and then leave it open to users to resolve. But, it's something we're exploring. We're trying to understand, what's the best way we can do this so that it's, again, it fits with however it's currently being used. All right, so thank you very much. Over to Jo.